I'm Tom Burns, and I'm running on the trails. Well, not right now. That's cement. But the trails are over there. I decided today to hit the trails because I've been running a lot of roads lately. It's been kind of boring. So I want to come out to nature and get some different scenery because I've been getting bored on my hour runs, same course all the time. So here's the trails. I just finished my hour run and I got 6.1 miles in, so about 10 minutes a mile overall, but I did stop a little bit, so that was good. I picked up the last bit, averaging about an 8-minute mile pace towards the end. But now I think it's time to go shower, and after the shower I will probably try to do a recap of my first Ironman and talk about that. So see you soon. All right, I am now all showered, and let's recap my first Ironman. So first Ironman was about 3 years ago, and of course swim, bike, run. 2.4 swim, 112 mile bike, and then 26.2 mile run. And it was all in Tempe, Arizona. The swim was in a man-made lake. It was kind of gross, not very clear water. But again, I'm also used to swimming in the ocean, which is usually pretty clear out here in the Pacific in Monterey. And on that swim, it was impossible not to run into someone or tap someone on their leg or have someone tap you on their leg. It was like we were a bunch of packed sardines, because back then the race was a mass start, so everyone that was starting all started together, and we just took off from there. So there was just lots of people around. But the coolest thing I did experience in the swim is actually swimming stroke for stroke alongside with someone, because in the Ironman swim there's so many different variables of swimmers. You're just bound to probably find someone that you can probably actually swim stroke for stroke with, and it was just kind of a lot of fun. And it didn't seem like it took all that long. It took me about an hour and a half, I believe. I should probably have my times figured out, but who cares? And a fun note about the swim, that was the first time I ever peed in my wetsuit. Normally I don't like to do that, but I was just staying so hydrated in the morning and sitting in the water getting ready to start to swim. I just had to go, so I did. But then after the swim, got out of the swim. With the Ironman event, it's quite interesting. They have strippers for you, and they strip your wetsuit off of you, so you don't have to worry about it. I kind of went in with the mentality of, no, I can take care of that myself, but the volunteers are great, and they pretty much force you to get on the ground and they take your wetsuit off for you, which actually is a lot of help. After that, went into they have big changing tents after for the transitions. One's for the men's, one's for the women. You go in there and you can change. You can take your time and full on change your outfit. But I had my tri-shorts and my tri-top underneath, so all I really had to do was get to my tri-bag, put my wetsuit in my transition one bag, and then from there put my helmet on, my bike shoes, all that. I also had a biking jersey that I put on top of my tri-top, which I stuffed with peanut butter jelly sandwiches and other nutrition for the bike ride. In transition, I did eat a peanut butter jelly sandwich and drink some water and some Gatorade to get ready for the bike ride. And then on the way out to get your bike, they had volunteers to slather sunscreen on you. So they just have big old tubs of sunscreen that they squirt in their hands. They're wearing gloves, and they just rub it all on you so you don't get sunburn. And then from there, you just start running down the big aisleway, and they were calling out numbers, and kind of little of me, I was kind of out of it. Didn't really know how they were calling numbers and how they knew, but I had a sticker on my helmet and all over the place. So they were shouting numbers down the line so they can get a volunteer ready to pull your bike out. And then that way, as you're running down the main line, a volunteer just gives you your bike. You just take your bike and you get on your bike. So yeah, the bike was 3 loops out and back, and relatively flat. However, I did notice on the way out it's an uphill because there was about a 30-mile-an-hour headwind, and that headwind made it very interesting for that bike ride. On the way out, I was averaging about 10 miles an hour, but then on the way back, I was, it was a slight downhill. You had the wind at your back, so you were just cruising on the way back. And one thing that did happen to me on my bike, as far as nutrition goes, I was out there and had all the peanut butter jelly sandwiches ready to go, and I started to eat one, and then I just looked at it, and I did not want it, and it just sounded gross. And even to this day, I've yet to have a peanut butter jelly sandwich. But I wasn't sure what to do with all the nutrition, because my plan was peanut butter jelly sandwiches. I had a bunch of them that I just did not want to eat. So then I just looked to the aid stations. They had goos that they were passing out and other nutrition. So I just took the goos, and normally I never really liked goos from running, just because they're sticky and how do you eat all that. But on a really long bike ride, it was quite nice. Kind of had a goo all the way back to give me the nutrition that I needed, and just did the loops. And what I did for hydration is they passed out water bottles to you. In most triathlons, they give you some water bottles that you can take and put in. But usually you have to start with water bottles, and I have a nice water bottle collections, and I like to keep them. So I went out to the store a couple days before and bought water bottles that I would feel okay with tossing out at the aid stations, because they give you other ones, and they had just like store-bought water bottles. I did need to use some electrical tape around my water bottle cages because, again, the store-bought water bottles are a little bit skinnier, so I needed to make my cage a little bit tighter so they wouldn't wiggle out. So yeah, that's pretty much the bike. I mean, the headwind sucked. It was good to get over. So then you hop back into the transition area. You give someone your bike, and then you pass off. You get your T2 bag, which I had all this stuff packed in there. And I'll probably do a video later about transition bags and what I packed and what I'm thinking for this upcoming race. But that kind of confused me when I first started out. So I'll probably talk about that later in another video. Yeah, so I was heading back into transition and took off all my bike gear, put on my running shoes. I did take off my cycling jersey, so then I was just in my tri-top that I was going to do the race in. And then I took off in the race, and I was feeling great. I remember looking down at my watch and having a pretty crazy pace going on. I wanted to say it was probably like 9-minute mile pace or something like that. I'm like, I can't keep that up. So there was about like 2 miles into it. I'm like, I need to slow down. So I slowed my pace down to about 10-minute miles, which I was able to sustain kind of for a good portion of it until I just hit a wall. I was not feeling that great, didn't have that much energy. My body was craving something, didn't really know what it was, so I started eating pretty much everything they were passing out, the potato chips, the pretzels, so just started kind of eating everything they had. I packed a honey stinger. I did have peanut butter jellies packed, but still didn't want them. And then I did have a honey stinger that gave me some more energy. But the thing that really kind of helped my body go on was pretzels. Yeah, they're passing out pretzels. They seem to kick in, or maybe it was a combination of everything else I had before that finally kicked in. And I feel like the pretzels made me feel better. Also, they were passing out chicken broth and all that good stuff. So it was good. So, and I do remember walking a bit of the marathon. The first loop felt pretty good, but then it was the second loop. It was kind of depressing because you saw some people going off to the right, and it was like, oh, they're finishing, but you still had to go for about another 13 miles. And that was a little bit defeating because it's like, oh man, they're done almost, but I still have a whole nother loop to go. Yeah, and in Arizona, because of that 30-mile-an-hour wind, it was because of a low pressure system coming in. It also made for the run to be a little bit colder. So I do wish I had I wore an extra like shirt or long sleeve shirt, or I had something packed in my special needs bag on the run, just so I wasn't as cold, because it did get pretty chilly. I didn't think Arizona would get down into the like 55, 60 degrees. That's what I'm used to running in, so I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal. But it did get kind of cold. But then finishing was good. They do say the Ironman finish line is one of the best finish lines there is. I mean, they roll out the carpet for you. I mean, carpeted finish line, can't beat that. And you just hear your name being like, Tom Burns, you are an Ironman, and just kind of crossing that line. It felt good. And then they had volunteers out there giving you your medal, giving you got a hat, got a finisher's t-shirt, and then there was someone like each finisher had a volunteer kind of walking with them, which for me, I was kind of just like, I don't want to talk right now, but the volunteers were great. Probably next time I'll probably talk a little bit more to that volunteer who's helping out. But yeah, it was good. Then I went in line, signed up for a massage. They had pizza, burgers, I believe, just pretty much anything you could think to eat was there. So I got my massage, then pretty much found my brother, who was my support for the day, and then drove home. And then the next day when I woke up, it was kind of like, man, what happened the day before? It kind of just seemed like a big blur. I mean, it was just under 14 hours. That's a long day. And it was like, where did the day go? So that's a recap of my first Ironman. That was a recap of my first Ironman. It was about 3 years ago, so all the details aren't all fresh in my mind, but those are definitely the things that I remember 3 years later. It was a great experience. It was a great accomplishment, and we'll see how Madison goes in about 10 weeks. Yeah, I think that's all.